welcome back to ASUG News. I'm Gina Marchese. Here with me today are some of our Leadership 2.0 fans. First, I'll introduce Lisa Leslie, the Leadership 2.0 team captain, four-time Olympic gold medalist, WNBA All-Star. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And we have two volunteers from the ASUG communities. We have Bob Hill, the chapter chair from Minnesota, and we have Chavone Jacobs from the Colorado chapter.
Nice to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, you know, Leadership 2.0 is in its third year. We had our third panel session, third annual conference panel session today. I know Chavone and Bob, you both participated. Before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about, Lisa, what we've been doing the last 2 years with Leadership 2.0. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen over the last 2 years, the feedback you've received.
I think Leadership 2.0 has really given a lot of people ideas and options of how to lead, how to work amongst teams, and we really found out how to further our education and from an individual perspective of how to really reach the goals that a person wants to reach. And I used a lot of examples throughout our blogs and talking about going back to school and furthering our education. I've also written about setting goals, because we all have individual goals, and then you also have goals collectively as a team as well as a company, and how a person, an individual, can achieve all three of those successfully. So we've had a lot of good feedback. We've gotten some topics that people wanted to hear more about, like some of the topics we covered today with disrupting yourself and disruptive innovation, as well as team ability. So we've covered quite a bit in the last 2 years, and the feedback has been great. Now I'm very interested to hear what our two volunteers have to say about it as well.
That's great. You know, the topics have evolved, I think. We started with a little bit of goal setting, how to work in challenging times, how to lead through challenge, how to lead through change. And actually at SAP Tech Ed this year, we did a mentor session, you know, the value of mentoring. But as you said, at this conference, we talked about disruptive innovation and the concept of taking something and flipping it upside down. And Whitney Johnson, our anchor panelist, talked about applying that in a personal way. And I know Chavone and Bob, you both participated in today's session. Chavone, what was your impression?
It was a really nice session. It wasn't, disruptive innovation was completely new to me. I have a page and a half of notes of things that I kind of need to digest before I figure out how they fit. The differences that each woman brought to the panel was really insightful. Each brought something completely different. It was grand fun. It was grand fun.
Bob?
I think the key was it was a new term. I agree. It was a new term I hadn't used. And now I realize it's what my daughter was doing to me as she grew up. But I think the key point is how to work with people. People are different. They're not the same they were 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. And people need to be worked with differently. I mean, you look at a chapter, I mean, we're all volunteers. We have a limited amount of time. We all have great ideas. How do we blend that in? And there was good discussion around those kind of topics. Even the chapter membership itself is diverse. You have technology, you have HR type people, soft skill people, and how do you make that all blend together to become a cohesive team? So
I think the topic of diversity and leading teams through diversity, you know, Lisa, we did talk about that in an earlier panel session last year, leading a team through diversity. What are the tips that you would give someone like Chavone and Bob, who are volunteer leaders of a diverse team?
When you look at diversity, I think it's important not to necessarily gather teams of people who are just like ourselves, but to have people who do think differently, come from different backgrounds, whether that has to even do with, you know, race and different beliefs and culturally. All of those things come together. I think when you talk about a diverse group, it's important to have different ideas. And sometimes you don't always want group think, as they say, stinking thinking, because we're all thinking just alike, and we may not necessarily get to another place where we could have been more innovative or even get to a much more successful place in solving whatever the problem is. So I think when you talk about bringing in a group and having different innovation, it's good to work with people who have different ideas and then throw out different concepts, as we talked about disrupting ourselves not only as an individual, but also disrupting a group. How do you do that? And really, I found that when you don't make it about yourself, so if I came in and said, hey, I had this great idea, and I think I want you guys to hear this and jump on board, it's a little bit easier. It's like, hey, this is what I've been hearing this is a concept that I heard. What do you guys think? If I present it to the group in a way where it's not necessarily just about me, but it's about all of us coming up with a way to advance our group or get to that project done, sometimes that's the best way to be very innovative with a group than making it all about self.
I think that's one of the pillars of starting Leadership 2.0 was recognizing we have 400 plus volunteers that drive our communities year round. We have more than 600 speakers here at conference driving our educational sessions. And of course our other landmark events, the SAP Business Objects User Conference, that ASUG event has another 300 speakers, and we see that there's a need for professional development. And I know a core component to that, you talk about managing teams, you talk about diversity, but communication skills was another area we focused on this year. We talked a lot about mastering those skills. I know our communications trainer, Jenny, has done a fabulous job with our volunteers, first starting at our volunteer meetings, doing communication workshops. And I know, Chavone, you participated in that, so tell us about your experience.
I did. I actually participated in it twice, and then I went back to the office and forced them to listen to how this worked and told professional women friends how that worked. It does haunt me still. The yes and, yes but, some of the red ball games we played, I still replay some of that in my head periodically. It did make a difference. It was a gift.
That's great. You know, those communication workshops were really meant to take a set of skill sets and teach you how to listen and learn. And so while they are based on theater training that Jenny brings to the table, and I have to say I was a little intimidated about the idea of tossing an imaginary ball through the tour, the feedback has been positive. And I think that because it was so positive, we took it on the road this year. We took the Leadership 2.0 communication workshops we're doing at the chapter level. But even today's Disruptive Innovation topic, our panel session, Lisa moderated for the first time. We'll talk about that a little later because I want to get your impressions. But Bob, you had mentioned that as we expand our program in 2013 for Leadership 2.0, and we love the idea of streaming this sort of experience to our chapters, you raised your hand. So tell me a little bit about that.
Minnesota wants to be the pilot for that. We have a strong belief in the Minnesota chapter, and we saw it when Jenny came up that we need more of these type sessions. It's great to have the technology type sessions. It's great to have the end user focused sessions, but we want to learn when we take a full day out of a day to come to a chapter meeting. We want to be able to hear how to do things differently. The reception we got to the time Jenny was up here at our last meeting has been extremely positive. And the bottom line, the answer we got in the surveys is do it more, do it more. So we want to be part of the pilot. The idea of having diversity, diverse groups, diverse individuals is a strong belief of mine. Okay. We just hired 2 new volunteers into our chapter, and their first question was, Bob, what do you want us to do? Right. My answer to them was, I want you to turn the chapter upside down. Right. I want to do things differently. And part of that is doing the soft skill things, and I've talked to other chapters and says, wow, we didn't think about that. Yeah. So we're excited.
Well, when you say turn upside down, I'm going to go to you, Lisa, about disruptive innovation. Now, the concept of disruptive innovation may be relatively new in the sense that the term was coined, but the actual concept has been around for a while. Our participant panel, participant Whitney Johnson, talked about how it's really been out there, but if you imagine Netflix as disruptive innovation from the blockbuster model of getting movies, and this was your first experience, Lisa, kind of stepping up your role as not only a thought leader and an executive coach, but also moderating that session. So we had Dr. Janice Pressler from the Gabriel Institute, Bridget Chambers, our CEO, and Whitney, of course, who is the co-author of Dare, Dream, Do, but also the person who took disruptive innovation and applied it personally. How was that experience for you?
It was a really good experience when you talk about 3 powerful women who are sort of, with Whitney Johnson, obviously, with disrupting yourself and that whole concept and how she tied it with her book, Dare, Do, Dream, which 3 Ds, I always get mixed up with those 3. But I thought it was great because when she was even signing autographs and talking to the people, she would ask them, where are you right now? Are you in Dare, Dream, or Do? And people, I was surprised by their response that some people thought, well, I'm just a dreamer, or I'm doing right now, or I kind of dare, but I wish I could do. And it's really amazing that it was really about people looking at how they tell their own story about themselves, how they view themselves, and what stage of life they're in. And to me, I asked her, so what is the right answer? And she said, really, there is no right answer because each individual can really tell and speak for themselves where they feel they are. And I thought for me, I think I'm always in all three because I'm doing something that I love to do, but I'm always dreaming and setting goals for things that I dare myself to try to do in the future. And so I thought it was great. And then dealing with Dr. Presser, Dr. J as we call her, the psychologist, where she's all about team ability and how you can be disruptive in a team as an individual, but how do you do it as a group successfully? And I thought it's great also to visit her website at drjanice.com and maybe figure out more about drjansenpresser.com and figure more about team ability, which I thought, hey, I come from a team where disruptive behavior it was always considered a negative, and I never knew until meeting Whitney Johnson and reading her book how disruptive behavior can really be a positive because you're trying to move a group to a place where they haven't been, or you're trying to be innovative to a business group and say, hey, here's some new ideas and different ways and directions we can go in. So I thought being the host was interesting to navigate the women through their thoughts and also the things that they had that were different and to see how they both responded. So I really enjoyed it. And obviously having Bridget Chambers, the CEO of ASUG, and just her perspective of how she's been very disruptive, how she loves for the people underneath her to be disruptive, but it's all good and you have to be very patient because everything doesn't necessarily move at the pace that the person who's being disruptive wants it to, but to stay positive and keep pushing, the group in a great direction.
Well, and it sounds like team ability is probably the next topic we'll focus
I
on
hope
this
so.
year. What's your feedback, Bob and Siobhan? What do you want to hear about as volunteers, but also professionals? You're in the SAP ecosystem. We always joke about being in the SAP ecosystem. You're lifers. You might change jobs, but you're an SAP expert in some way. What would help you in your professional way with Leadership 2.0? What topics?
Ideas? I think that because we do push ourselves, right? We are Ben Franklin, give it to a busy person. We have full-time jobs. We try to do this on the side. Our best isn't good enough some days.
Right.
And so I think surviving and recognizing we're going to give it again tomorrow,
Right.
some of how you get past how you keep going
Right.
when there isn't enough of you
I like
might
that idea.
be an
Okay.
idea.
Stretching yourself.
Yes.
Or cloning.
Surviving,
One of the
right.
two.
Surviving stretching.
Okay.
Yeah, the term out there now is doing more with less.
Right.
I mean,
Agreed.
that's the direction businesses are going.
Right.
And how do we do that? How do we do that effectively? And how do we handle a team that is all of a sudden smaller in size, but the scope hasn't changed?
Right.
So that would be a great topic.
We talked a little bit about that today in a disruptive way. How do you manage a team when it's being disruptive? How do you
Right.
be disruptive when you're on a team? So there's so many different perspectives you can take. Well, you certainly provided great perspectives for me today. Thank you so much for joining us, Siobhan, Bob, Lisa. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
It's a
Thanks
pleasure.
again for joining us at asugnews.com for more information. We're streaming live on ASUG Online as well as asugnews.com. Thank you.